You're listening to The Manning Report with your host, James David Manning. The news behind the headlines.
But how to not save whiteness. Now, listen, if all the stuff we see on CNN, Anderson Cooper and, Lawrence O'Donnell and, Chuck Todd and, all them people all over everywhere in the news media. And then people got Maggie Haberman in the New York Times, and you've got, you got the Washington Post crowd, and then you got David Gergen, you got, all these people from Watergate coming on, trying to discover what's happening with Tribulation Trump, right? They're missing the mark. And I think they know about it because they're listening to me, or at least they should listen to me. This is about saving white people. White people are going into extinction. That's just it was a political movement in Egypt. If you look at Exodus chapter 1, starting in verse 7, it was a political movement in Egypt that the Jews were having more babies than the Egyptians, and the Egyptians became afraid that the Jews were going to overtake them. It was a political belief then. It's been a genocide political belief during the days of Hitler that the Jews, again, were going to make the Aryan or the Japheth people their slaves. So Hitler set out to kill them all in a process called genocide. It has happened in a lot of African nations. This is not what's happening with this particular type of genocide or a fear of a minority being overtaken by what was once a minority. It has been repeated in so many different nations, but here in America, it is very sophisticated because white people, Japheth people, don't want to publicly state that's what this whole fight is all about. And that's why Trump gets this unmitigated support from the Republicans in the Senate and the racists and rednecks in the South. They don't want to admit that. And of course, they are trying to make it all kinds of other things, but this is about how to save whiteness. I'm going to let you listen to Jeanine Pirro first. I'll let you listen to her and watch how she just obfuscates and just absolutely acts like the validated report that was given by Bob Barr that said, in effect, that as far as collusion is concerned, that Russia meddled in the 2016 election with systematic and sweeping, in a sweeping and systematic fashion. We know that over 126 million Americans were affected by the ads posted by the IRA or the Intelligence Resource Agency there in Russia. And yet she acts like Barr that Trump did nothing wrong. These people are running scared. But the people on the other side of the aisle, on the Anderson Cooper side or the Rachel Maddow side, cannot say it's whiteness, try to say whiteness, because they white too. It's a mess. Anyway, this engineer, watch the lunacy. Watch how Jeanine Pirro obfuscates. You can see she's lying. And she's trying to convince somebody else of her lie. Watch this. Mr. Engineer, roll that clip.
The Attorney General did a grave disservice to the country by misrepresenting significant parts of the Mueller report, by attempting to put a positive spin for the president on the special counsel's findings. When the Attorney General gives the perception that the president fully cooperated in the investigation when he didn't, that they provided all the information materials when they didn't, when the president, in fact, deprived the special counsel of perhaps the single most important piece of evidence, that is his own verbal testimony, that misleads the American people.
Oh, that's Adam Schiff slamming Attorney General Barr, attacking his character for doing his job. Joining me now with a reaction to that and so much more, former Trump campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. All right, Corey, I could say hit it, and you will. But here's the thing that bothers me. He says that the Attorney General did a grave disservice to the country by misrepresenting significant parts of the Mueller report. Okay, first things first. The Mueller report is for the Attorney General. He didn't even have to release it. That's number one. And number two...
Hold it. Jeanine, you're right about that he didn't have to release it. But that does not respond to your first allegation that Adam Schiff is slamming Bill Barr inaccurately because Bill Barr did misrepresent the report, Janine. He did. He misrepresented. You white people are sick. He misrepresented that report. I mean, you argue that he misrepresented it and say that he didn't even have to present it. But watch this. Watch Corey Lewandowski. Watch this.
The attorney general is the one who makes a decision ultimately as to the obstruction, because Mueller couldn't do it himself. So I find it amazing that this guy who's been jumping at cameras for years saying there's overwhelming evidence now is maybe changing his tune a little. Are you agreeing with that or not?
Look, Judge, this guy has lied to the American people for 2.5 years, where he's come out on numerous occasions and said that he has found...
Hold on. Notice this is Corey Lewandowski, who's Tribulation Trump's first campaign manager, right? And remained Tribulation Trump's campaign manager until there was someplace here in New York, and Corey Lewandowski manhandled a reporter, actually grabbed her by the arm and manhandled her and snatched her away from Tribulation Trump. He later got fired, all right? Notice how he calls Adam Schiff, says Adam Schiff's been lying for 2 years. But I guarantee you, I bet you my last money, I bet you my Bible that Corey Lewandowski, if you ask him, does Trump lie? He'll say no. This is sick. These white people are sick as hell. I'm telling you. And what they're trying to do, the devil has got them using all of these unprecedented acts of foolishness and folly because they're trying to save themselves. They're trying to save the white population. That's what this is all about. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Seen overwhelming evidence that this president colluded with Russia, and he's had egg on his face now since the summary came out, and now he's trying to walk it back, and he's trying to point the blame at somebody else, specifically Attorney General Barr, a man whose reputation should be completely intact.
Wait. You know, if the Corey Lewandowski, I don't know if you're married, you know, I don't know if you are. But Corey Lewandowski, if your wife met with me 141 times over the course of 18 months, we had 141 meetings, some in an office, some at restaurants, some in other meeting places, maybe some in hotels. Would you consider that to be overwhelming evidence that your wife is being popped? Would you? Of course you would. You'd be livid. You'd be outraged. If your wife met with me, now I probably wouldn't. I said pop. Okay, I realize I need to get your attention, so I use that. I know it's uncharacteristic of a family show. If you've been offended by that, let me apologize. But I said it because I got to get people. I need you to see the gravity of this, and let's take me out of it and put somebody else in it. Corey Lewandowski meet with somebody else's wife in boardrooms, hotels, and restaurants for 141 times. Anybody would say there's overwhelming evidence that adultery is going on with Corey Lewandowski's wife. Yet, the Trump campaign met with Russia in person 141 times, in hotels, in bars, in boardrooms, and yet you say there's no evidence of collusion. These white people are sick. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
A man who has done a service to this country, and a man who is turning over the report to the American people in a very timely manner because he wants to show that there was no collusion, no cooperation, no coordination between the Trump campaign and the Russians at any given time. But Schiff doesn't want to hear that.
Okay. There you go again. And let me again apologize for saying his wife was being popped. I apologize. I realize that this is a family show, and I know, but again, I need your attention. At least, if you'll accept my apology, but at the same time, you realize just how ridiculous. Corey Lewandowski knows that the Trump campaign met with Russia 141 times. Various segments of the Russia movement. Corey Lewandowski knows that the 17 intelligence agencies led by Dan Coates says that Russia meddled in the 2016 campaign. Corey Lewandowski knows that the Barr report in its first page of the segment 1 says that Russia meddled in the 2016 presidential election with sweeping and systematic fashion with the purpose of helping Trump and hurting Hillary Clinton. And yet he says there's no evidence. Now, the reason why they're saying that, one is that because Barr himself could not say, because if he said that, if Barr said that, or if Mueller said it, then what it would say is that they'd have to remove Trump from office right away because his presidency is illegal, and it is. But if you sit and watch these, just watch what they're saying and watch how sick they are. And this Jeanine Pirro is one sicko. I think her husband beat the living daylights out of her, probably because of the way she talks. But go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Thing is that Dems seem to be split. Steny Hoyer is now saying, well, we don't really want impeachment, which, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of a smart move because the American people are fed up to hear with it, except for the lefties. And I'm not so sure there are that many of them. And, then there are those like Jerry Nadler who want to go on for the next 18 months and parse every sentence and re-look at every word and what it really means and changing the presumption of innocence. And the laws of the Justice Department.
Judge, here's the problem. These people are actually disappointed that the President of the United States isn't a criminal. That's really what they believe. They hate this.
Whoa! Hold the phone. Listen, Corey and Jenny, the Benghazi hearings went on for 2.5 years and found nothing. There was something there. But again, politicians do what politicians do. Listen, Obama and Benghazi and Hillary as Secretary of State was guilty as sin. But you don't allow the Democrats to now hold hearings the way the Republicans did with Trey Gowdy for 2.5 years, and now you think they should just move on? The hypocrisy of these people. Here, let me tell you what the title of this particular segment is called, How to Not Save Whiteness, because that's exactly what's happening here. Again, let me go back and say to you, genocide and the political powers in control, their methods of dealing with an up-and-coming and burgeoning racial or social group that threatens their existence, genocide becomes the method. Right now, white people are in an extraordinary, extreme minority. They're never going to get out of it. They're not going to have enough sex. The women don't want to have babies. The men, a lot of white men, not all white men, are gay or transgendered. And they're not going to populate. They're not like, you don't see, you're in Mexico and down into Latin America, all the way from from Brownsville, Texas, all the way down to Venezuela. You can go through those cities in Latin America, and you're not going to see a lot of sodomites. Now they're there. They do have Latin sodomites, of course you do, but nothing like what you have in the white world. These Latinos, or go to Africa, you won't see it in Africa, or India. The perverseness of sodomy, which means that essentially white people aren't producing life because they're now male with male and female with female. But that having been said, Hitler tried genocide to stop the Jews from taking over them, both in terms of numerical and financially. The Jews, according to Hitler, had a strong hold on Germany financially, that if they didn't kill the Jews and take their property, the Aryan race would become subservient to the Jews. And so Hitler set out, and he was staunchly supported the same way Republicans are supporting Trump now as Trump. Now notice what Trump does. Notice his rhetoric. His talking points have been for 2.5 years. Ban Muslims from coming into the nation, and that mattered when I went through the Supreme Court. And build a border wall on the southern border to stop brown-skinned people from coming in. It's a form of modern-day genocide. And these people that support Trump and understand that whiteness is under threat, but they can't say that. So they're being completely disingenuous And you got people like Jeanine Pirro, they're not even, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been on a debate team, they're not even addressing the issues. They're not even addressing the issues. They are obfuscating and trying to make Trump some sort of a saint. Mr. Engineer, a few more moments. I need to get out of this section. Go ahead.
President more than they love their country. And what they want to do is they want to continue to investigate somebody that there was no crime there. They'll never give him.
But Curry, Trey Gowdy investigated Obama and Benghazi and Hillary for 2.5 years. And James Comey investigated Hillary and the emails for 2 years. I mean, come on. You act like somehow or another that your hands are clean, or the Republicans' hands are clean. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
A break. Look, I was there from the very beginning. I literally turned the lights on in the building. I still have the privilege to spend time with the president on a regular basis. I'm the person who told them there was no collusion on day one. They didn't want to believe me. $25 million, 40 FBI agents later.
Corey, if your wife has 141 contacts with Shaquille O'Neal, so let me back up a bit. Forget what I said earlier. Corey Lewandowski, if your wife meets with Shaquille O'Neal 141 times in boardrooms and hotels and restaurants, and they're keeping the meeting secret, she's not telling you about, she's meeting with Shaq for 2.5 years, for 141 times. If your wife is meeting with Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq Attack, for 141 times and never told you about it, would you say she's not guilty of adultery or Shaq rocking your cradle and ringing her bell? The Trump campaign met with Russia 141 times in boardrooms, hotels, restaurants, 141 times. It's absolutely incredible that this nonsense is going on. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Jeanine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.